There was a man driving a car and his name was Nick. While he was driving on the road, there was a beautiful girl skating on the road whose name was Adrian. Nick almost ran over her, but he braked and stopped Adrian in front of him. The two just looked at each other and Adrian left to skate away. Nick is a 28-year-old writer who got a job at Peak Magazine and is staying in a guest house owned by Cliff and Liv and their daughter Adrian, who is 14 years old. Nick is already in the guest house and looking inside the house. He sits down and thinks about what to do. Adrian is downstairs sitting in the garden and peeking into their guest house. Her friend Cheyenne arrived and ordered her to check the guest house who was living there. She went immediately while Nick was busy repairing the sink. Cheyenne introduced herself to Nick. They talked for a while and she left. She told Adrian that there was a man rents their guest house. The next day, Nick went to their company. Their boss has a meeting with them. Amy is sitting next to Nick while they are listening to their meeting. They get to know each other. At the guest house where Nick is staying, he is busy fixing his car and Adrian is standing there talking to Nick about his car. At night, Nick was sitting at his computer table and was busy with what he was doing. He was surprised when Adrian suddenly came outside the door. He let her in and the two talked. Adrian sat in front of Nick and asked him if he already has a lover. Nick's answer is yes. Nick noticed that Adrian was just flirting with him and Nick said it was nothing because Adrian was still a minor. The next day, Nick went jogging and when he arrived at the guest house, he took a shower. When Adrian suddenly called him, he saw that Adrian was already inside the house sitting at the computer table. Nick said that she should knock before entering the house. Adrian said that she knocked, but he didn't hear her. Adrian went to the bathroom while he was shaving. He closed the door a little to get dressed, but Adrian was just sitting on the chair near the bathroom. She saw Nick naked. She smiled and said she had a present for him. Nick got dressed and went out. He looked at the gift of Adrian, brought an eye shade. Nick measured it and thanked Adrian. Nick was leaving because he was late for work. Adrian invited Nick to her parents' party at their new house. But Nick says he should try, but Adrian insists on attending the party. She blocks at the door, but Nick leaves without confirming his answer. At night, Nick was sitting in the living room and peeking through the window that there was a party in the other house. Nick decided to go to the party and he met Adrian's parents. He saw Adrian's amazing piano performance. After playing the piano, she went out to the balcony and Nick followed Adrian. He thought he was 10 years older, that he just wanted to be friends with Adrian. While she was flirting with him, Nick said that what he was doing was wrong. Nick agreed and encouraged him to go out to the place Adrian wanted, a romantic, secluded place. During their conversation, Adrian took Nick's hand and the two kissed. Nick stopped when he realized he was being seduced and Nick took Adrian home. The next day Nick was at the computer table and suddenly the phone rang. Adrian called while she was in her bathing suit and she was lying on the sunbed in their garden. She told Nick that if he could come down to play. Nick noticed in his table that his photo display is gone. Nick asked if it was taken from here. Adrian immediately answered no. After a few hours Nick was walking and thinking. He then left and went to Adrian's house. Nick knocked and called, but no one answered. He entered the house of Adrian and saw the picture frame which is facing back on the table. He looked at it and thought it was what he was looking for. It turned out to be Adrian's picture. He continued walking until he went upstairs, saw an open room and secretly entered the room, so he could have right in his article. When he heard a noise at the other door, he went immediately and saw that Adrian was in the bathroom. Nick hid in the closet. Adrian then went out from the bathroom and she undressed facing the closet where Nick was hiding and see where Adrian undressing in front of him. Adrian then entered the bathroom to take a shower. Nick quickly came out of the closet and went downstairs, and when he opened the door to go out, Adrian's father appeared, asked Nick why he was here. Adrian's father told Nick that he just returned the book he borrowed to Adrian. Cliff asked him for a favor and helped him carry the groceries upstairs. Adrian's crush on Nick is getting stronger. Nick goes to Adrian's garden and he saw her swings. Nick talks to her about Adrian, showing her that there is a long gap between the two of them to have a relationship. Nick realizes and tries to defer Adrian to him. Nick started to fall in love with Amy, who was his co-worker. Nick showed Amy a car. When they opened its cover, they were surprised to see what was written on the front of the car, which she didn't like. After Nick went to Adrian's parents and said that Adrian scratched his car, Adrian came and the father asked if she scratched Nick's car. Adrian replied that why would she do that. Adrian just smiled to him and said goodbye to her parents. The next day, while Nick is working on his car, Cheyenne comes up to him warning Nick about her. and wants to meet somewhere, but she had an accident at the horse riding school as Adrian were attending when she sabotaged Cheyenne's saddled horse. At night, Nick was waiting for Cheyenne, but Adrian came. He was surprised and said that Cheyenne was in the hospital. Adrian soon left and told Nick to be careful. Nick and Amy arrived at their house by car. Amy got out of the car first and walked to the stairs where Adrian was waiting and sitting. She greeted Amy. Adrian asked her if she had been to the lighthouse and invited her to visit the place, but Amy ignored her, and she went upstairs. Nick also, as he passing way upstairs, Adrian greeted him, but Nick also ignored her. The next day, while Amy was at the office, Nick called her and said that his discs were erased from the computer. Then Nick saw a diskette on the floor, and under the carpeted there was a secret door. He opened it and went down the stairs. He saw the surroundings with many candles lit. Nick saw his name and photo on the altar like a witch's room. He went up and nailed the secret door. Adrian starts calling him, but Nick doesn't answer and Adrian stops in anger. Amy went to Nick's house with wine and they drank while talking until they kissed and went to bed. The next day, Amy went out of the house to her car. Adrian arrived on skates, greeted her and telling her where Amy slept with last night. Amy didn't like what Adrian said to her, and just told her go and play. Amy get in the car and left. Amy got home and entered the photo lab. While she is inside the lab, someone locked the door outside, covered the air ventilation, and someone put bees in a hole. The bees entered the photo lab while Amy was busy developing pictures. She was attacked by bees, stung and fell to the floor after she threw a hard things at the glass window and broke it. The next day, Nick was at the computer table and he was talking to someone on the phone. Adrian knocked and she walked in towards Nick, but still busy talking on the phone, and found out that Amy was in the hospital. Adrian heard and she pretending that she doesn't know anything, but Nick doubted her. Nick driving his car when he arrived at their house. The police stopped him. He was picked up and accused in a sexual assault of a minor, and he saw Adrian and her parents outside their houses waiting for him to come. Then suddenly Cliff rushed Nick by choking him because of Adrian's complaint. They are taken to the police station for further investigation. Nick is jailed. Adrian accuses him of sexually assaulting her using evidence obtained from a used condom from Nick's trash, but Nick also gets out because of his boss's bail. At night, Adrian was packing his things to move to another house when Cheyenne suddenly arrived. The two of them talked about Adrian, who knew he was innocent and that Adrian had a history of obsessive behavior, mentioning a former crush at a camp counselor named Rick who accidentally died from food poisoning. Cheyenne also informs Nick of a diary Adrian kept that could exonerate him. After Cheyenne leaves, Nick hears strange noises coming from Adrian's house. He investigates and finds Cheyenne bound and gagged on the carousel in the attic. While Nick was untying Cheyenne, Adrian suddenly attacked him and hit him at the back with a golf bat. Adrian's father came and hearing her daughter's screams, he climbed up their secret stairs to the attic. Nick rushed. Adrian is being choked, and Nick is now being choked by Adrian's father, but Adrian hits the father in the back so he gets away. Nick stood up and Adrian rushed at him, but Nick got ahead of him by punching him and knocking him unconscious. After he mistook him for the aggressor. Adrian then knocks Cliff unconscious in defense of Nick, allowing the latter to subdue him with a punch. Exonerated, Nick lives with Amy in Seattle while Adrian is confined to a psychiatric hospital. Although she regretted that Nick refused to talk to her, respond to the many letters she wrote, or accept her apology, her doctor said she was making great progress, unbeknown to him that she is already having a crush on him. In the final scene, Adrian returns to her hospital room, where she stares at a picture of the doctor and his wife before her mouth slowly curves into a devious smile. This is where the movie recap movie ends. Subscribe for more different videos you can watch. Please turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel. Thank you very much for watching. God bless everyone.